I should have done this a while ago, but I just got a request to actually give sort of more of just a beginner interface kind of tutorial to just get you started. So I'm going to be doing a whole series on them, on the different synths. I'm just going to start first with a quick one just on Logic. So let's get to it. So as soon as my computer figures out what's going on, it'll open up Logic. If you haven't opened it up before, it'll open up a new project, or it'll open up the option to choose a new project, but it's probably going to load an old whatever I was last working on. Oh, why are you taking so long, Logic? And no, I'm not going to edit this out because that's too much work. So you're going to listen to me drone. It loaded up a recent project for me, so if it does that for you, I mean, it shouldn't. This is, your first or second time using Logic, then wait for it to figure out what's going on if you've got a 8-year-old computer like I do. So close, don't save. So you get this. I suggest you just go with the empty project. Honestly, sometimes some of the weird instruments are fun, but you don't need to start with them. You'll find them somewhere else. So most of the time you'll start with a software instrument. There's your two choices here, and you'll see this menu again whenever you create a new track. If you have external MIDI set up, then you can use the external MIDI. I'm not going to go into that. We'll just open up a software instrument to start. Output should be set, and you shouldn't have to do anything. So create. So we start off with the EVP. If you press the caps lock, that will pull out your piano. And then your keyboard is now a piano. Depending on how you write stuff, if you know your chords and you know music theory really well, and you don't just dick around on a MIDI keyboard, this is a good way to go, just because you don't really need to actually, sometimes I'll use that, but most of the time I come down here and pull up the piano roll, which you can also access by pressing P when caps lock is not on, and then I hold the Apple button and click. Apple just automatically pulls out your pen. And you can write stuff in just like that. A cool thing to do if you are going to go and write stuff in is you pull out hit the caps lock again. I moved it to my other screen over here, which you're not going to see, but you don't need to see what's going on with that. So caps lock is on. I can hit the record button down here. If I try to hit R right now, it's not going to do anything because it's trying to use the keyboard. So if you're ever like, what's going on? Why isn't something working when I'm trying to use a hotkey? It's because you've got the keyboard plugged in. And if you don't hear noise, it's because you're not hitting a key that's associated with a key. So we can go and record. So what I did was purposefully kind of offset the hits so that they're, a little fucked up. Then what you can do is you come down here, you hit, you can either select everything, or I always use the hotkey Apple A, and you need to be in this window, because if you hit out here and hit Apple A, it's going to select all the tracks. If you click inside the piano and hit Apple A, it'll select all of the MIDI notes. And you can then match it to the nearest note in the series, but that really doesn't matter. So that's getting MIDI notes in. That's probably going to be the most of what you're doing. over here, where my mouse is, to the left, you probably won't use this first box for a while, so you can close that. I never have looked at that, but yeah, don't worry about that. Right here, your inserts. So you can add in all of your effects here. You know, do whatever you want to do. I normally don't insert any effects here. I'll normally use the buses here. I have another tutorial on using buses that you can look at for that. But anyway, those are the inserts there. It's always good to, you can just double click on that EQ and it'll pull up an EQ instead of finding it. And then to use the EQ, I would definitely turn on the analyzer and select it to high. It'll then show what's going on, and you can adjust based on that. So that's that. Over to the, no, we'll finish here. So right where it says EVP88, you can select all of your different synths. I definitely suggest checking out the EFM, the monophonic synth, the ESM, the ESP, the polysonic. I use that one a lot, actually. The ES2 is really good for making pads and a bunch of other stuff. I mean, you can make some dubstep wobbles with it, but you know, and some bass, but it's not really that great. I mean, some of them can be really good if you end up adding a lot of other effects and bouncing them and doing all sorts of crazy stuff to it, but it'll be much easier if you're able to get a hold of Massive. Once you add any third-party synths, they'll end up in the bottom here, and you just come to Native Instruments and there's Massive. I'll do a completely different tutorial on the interface of Massive next. Right here, stereo out, you can actually change and add this, you know, to a bus. You can turn it off so it doesn't make a sound. There is reasons to use that. You can check out my tutorial on pumping. I do that. Also, buses are good just to group all of your instrument classes together. That way you can do a final EQ on all of your basses together as one, or all of your leads together as one. Right here is your volume. Right here is your panning. I wouldn't pan unless you want it to sound ridiculous any more than 15 on either side. I mean, if you're going for that effect of it running from one speaker to the other, then, you know, maybe go, you know, 30 or 40. Anything else and all of the sound is going to come out of the other speaker completely, and it'll just kind of empty it up, which, I mean, if, you know, play with it and you'll know, but sometimes it might sound a little too cheesy. To mute and solo the track, there's the mute and solo button. If you want to add other things, you can right click right here just to the left of the R, and you can turn on these other options. The freeze option is sometimes a good one to have. If you ever get that CPU error, sometimes that's a way to get around that. And that's probably the only thing you would need on. I wouldn't bother to turn any of these off. So you've got your MIDI. You're making a song. What else do you need? Here's your mixer down here, which all it's going to do is just be able to show you all your instruments all at once. Definitely a good tool. I'm trying to think of what else. I mean, Logic definitely has a lot of options, and most of them are pretty specific to certain things, but the general of it is really just getting down the MIDI notes and composing, and I believe I've pretty much covered all of that. Over here in your library and browser, if you want to bring in samples or whatever you've downloaded, Also, this is cool if you have an old project, or because I really liked that one bass that I had, or that one whatever I had, and I don't even know what I'm choosing right now, but because I don't really remember this song. But I'm just gonna pick that, and if you want the contents of it, then you click that, and that'll, if it's an audio file, it'll just bring in the audio file. If it's MIDI notes, it'll just bring in MIDI notes, and if you're not on the right instrument, then it's not going to sound anything like whatever it was, unless you just want the theme and you want to completely change the instrument. And then your plugins. Also, what'll happen is, if it's grayed out, that means there's nothing there to take. So right here, there's no sends. It's not sending any effects to anything. And I'm not sure what turning this on and off will do, to tell you the truth. But I don't ever bother with it anyway. So I'll hit add. And what did it do? Oh, it's loading. So there we go. Now I have this line from this other song. So that's that. When you want to, I'll do that in an ESX tutorial. That's pretty much the basics of it. A guy was asking me to do this tutorial because I guess he was kind of getting lost on terminology and all of that. I'm not sure what terminology I was using, but it's that difficult. I try to keep it pretty basic when I do my tutorials. But I don't know. That should be pretty much it for now. That's your deal. To create a new track up here, track, new. Also, I like to do this. This is much easier. Is what I do is once I have an EVP out and there's no sends on it. I mean, unless you want to just have the same sends. Command D will make a duplicate track. That's much quicker than coming up here to track and doing that, unless you want an audio track or to change it somehow. A, if you don't have the piano on, we'll pull up your automation. Right here, where it says volume right now, if you click this, you can then mess with any of the parameters. It'll show everything separated out as a number. So this is the EVP itself. I can mess with any of its parameters, or I can take the echo and mess with any of the echo, which I've never tried doing that with time. I'm going to try that later. And you can mess with the EQ, so you can have it do sort of like a DJ, like all the low end comes all the way up, so it's got that whoosh, 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 what I mean, that kind of buildy, all the bass goes away sort of thing and then drops. And then if you just click anywhere, it'll draw points. You can then mess around the points for a more precise thing, or you can pull out the pencil, and be an asshole with it. And I'm holding down, I don't know why right click isn't doing it on this. I guess it depends how your computer's set up. But I'm holding down the Apple key and then dragging it as I click the regular click, and I can do whatever. So right now the volume is just going to be retarded. I would never do that with volume, but I was just showing you that. Volume is really not ever what you want to automate. You want to automate gain or noise or echo or something else. Volume never is a good thing to automate. I would just keep that in mind. I can't really think of much else. If you want to copy a piece of MIDI, you can hold down Option, click, and drag. You'll see a little plus symbol come up on the hand to let you know that you're doing that, and let go, and now you've got two of them. If you want to loop, you go near the top end of the clip, click and drag, and then you can't see the end of the node anymore. So, and you're like, oh, I can't scroll over, what's going on? So you grab the bottom of it and drag it over, and then you can see all of your MIDI. That happens sometimes when you're recording. It'll do weird stuff. Logic is sometimes a little buggy. I think that pretty much covers everything I do in Logic. I'm just going to look at these. When you're done with a file, bounce it. I don't ever use this export option. I use the bounce. I mean, these are all hotkey stuff, options. I don't ever put markers or anything. That's if you want to do that. Screenshot, yeah. That's pretty much it. So enjoy. If you have any questions, let me know. And I'm gonna do a general massive tutorial now. Okay, bye.